spacious coves along the eastern shore of the Hudson, there lies a small lap of land, which is one of the quietest places in the whole world. This sequestered glen has long been known as Sleepy Hollow. The place continues under the sway of some bewitching power. The dominant haunting spirit is the apparition of a figure on horseback, without a head. This legendary specter is known by the name of the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow. In this byplace of nature lived a tall, lanky schoolmaster. He had huge ears, large green glassy eyes, a long slight nose, and feet that might have served as shovels. This worthy wight went by the name of Ichabod Crane. This schoolmaster was also a voluminous reader, especially in the subject of witchcraft, in which he most firmly and potently believed. After school, as evening gathered, he often wended his way to his farmhouse. At that witching hour, every sound of nature fluttered his excited imagination. The moan of the whippoorwill, the boding of the tree toad, or the dreary hooting of the screech owl. He was convinced that a rushing blast howling among the trees was indeed the galloping horseman. His only resource was to sing song tunes, and the good people of Sleepy Hollow often heard his nasal melody floating from the distant hill. All these, however, were mere terrors of the night. His path was soon to be crossed by a being that causes more perplexity to mortal men than ghosts, goblins, and the whole race of witches put together, and that was a woman. Among Ichabod's musical disciples was Katrina Van Tassel, the daughter and only child of a substantial Dutch farmer, old Baltus Van Tassel. Katrina was a blooming lass of fresh 18, universally famed for her beauty and her vast expectations. From the moment Ichabod laid eyes upon Katrina and her paternal mansion, his only study was how to gain the affections of the peerless daughter of Van Tassel. gaining her affections, however, Ichabod had a formidable rival, a burly, roaring, roistering blade named Brom Bones. Between Brom Bones and the preceptor of Sleepy Hollow. On a fine autumnal afternoon, an invitation came to Ichabod to attend a merrymaking, to be held that evening at the Van Tassels. The gallant Ichabod now spent an extra half hour getting ready. He borrowed a broken-down plow horse with a ewe-neck and a head like a hammer. One eye had lost its pupil, but the other had the gleam of a genuine devil in it. Still, it bore the name of Gunpowder, and Ichabod was a suitable figure for such a gaunt and shagged steed. It was toward evening that Ichabod arrived at the castle of Herr Van Tassel. Brom Bones, however, was the hero of the scene, having come to the gathering on his favorite steed, Daredevil, a creature like himself full of mettle and mischief. In time, the sound of music, played by an old gray-headed and battered musician, summoned to the dance. The revel now gradually broke up. Ichabod only lingered behind to have a tete-a-tete with the heiress, fully convinced that he was now on the high road to success. After the interview, however, Ichabod stole forth with the air of one who had been sacking a hen roost rather than a fair lady's heart. Ichabod, heavy-hearted and crestfallen, pursued his travel homewards. No signs of life occurred near him, and he was approaching the very place where many scenes of ghost stories had been laid. In the center of the road stood an enormous tulip tree with gnarled and fantastic limbs. As Ichabod approached this fearful tree, he began to whistle. He thought his whistle was answered. It was but a blast sweeping through the dry branches. He passed the tree in safety, but new perils lay before him. His heart began to thump. Upon approaching a nearby stream, he beheld something huge, misshapen, black, and towering. A gigantic monster ready to spring upon the traveler. Ichabod broke forth with an involuntary fervor into a psalm tune, but the shadowy object put itself in motion and stood at once in the middle of the road. He appeared to be a horseman of large dimensions and mounted on a black horse of powerful frame. Ichabod was horror-struck on perceiving that his fellow traveler was headless. The head, which should have rested on his shoulders, was carried before him on the pommel of his saddle. Ichabod rained a shower of kicks and blows upon Gunpowder, who